There is a passage here in the 19th Psalm which you have heard many times. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Now, in light of what we have said, I'd like you to see this in a new way. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. These terms are never used about that which does not have life. These terms are speaking about the essence of those heavens which are uttering the praise of God and shouting forth his handiwork. The life, the essence of those heavens is literally speaking. This is not a description for little man on earth so that he can look up and say, oh yes, God made those things. No. This is to awaken you and I to the fact that this is really happening. The heavens are right this moment declaring the praise of God to God. And this has nothing to do with you and I. This is the living heavens. And the firmament is showing his handiwork and uttering by speech. And these terms are used to tell you of life all around you, everywhere. That which is a star is alive, but it isn't a star. It is life invisible appearing to you as a star. And that invisible life is declaring to God praise for the essence within itself. You are in the middle of eternal life. It surrounds you. It beats everywhere. It can never be extinguished. And you are part of it. And we must become aware of the invisible life all around us. In this psalm, David caught that, just as in the 17th or 18th verse there of Genesis, the first chapter, we are told that these lights are to rule, and they are. The life in them is the life that is also your life. There will come one day a consciousness expanded to appreciate the fact that they're speaking about my life, which is not confined to this form. That there is an infinite life pulsing through the universe, which is your life. And you're not a segment of it or a fraction of it. And this body bears false witness to the truth of our being. Now Isaiah was trying to awaken us to some of this. And here's what he said. I'm going to the 11th chapter of Isaiah. I'm going to read from the 6th to the 9th verse of the 11th chapter. Now this, when illumination comes, is what happens. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. That which you see on earth as the wolf and the lamb are invisibly the one life, seen through the distortion of human sense. And the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them. Now who's that little child? The Spirit of God in you shall show you the invisible kingdom that your human eyes cannot see. That little child is the child of the Christ within yourself. The little child shall lead them. The little child in you shall show you harmony where the eye sees discord. The little child in you shall show you peace where the eye sees war. The little child in you shall show you the paradise where the human eye sees a snake. Now, the cow and the bear shall feed, the young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters covers the sea. Now, in my holy mountain, the little child that shall lead them in the holy mountain are one and the same. And we're going to the 5th Psalm, the 4th Psalm, because we want to see what this holy mountain is, which will make us see all things in their proper relationship instead of the enmity which seems to be prevalent on the face of the earth. This holy mountain, this child that shall lead them, is always the same. It's the stone carved out of the mountain without hands. And watch it. Look how simple it says it. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in the Lord. Now what does that mean? Put your trust in the Lord. You're being told that you are walking in a material universe in which you are seeing the opposites that do not exist in reality. And as you walk in this material universe, seeing the opposites, you are really walking in the 1st chapter of Genesis, where there are no opposites. You're walking in a perfect and immaculate spiritual creation. And you are seeing an imperfect, unimmaculate, material creation. And the child, the holy mountain, the trust, is your ability to stop looking at the watch where the hands are set wrong. And that watch where the hands are set wrong is your human mind. And you must cultivate that habit of standing between the material universe of untruth and the spiritual, ever-present universe of truth, and see that they both cannot exist. Only one can exist. And now you are to stand in that corridor of silence in the middle of the two universes, the one that is and the one that isn't, and place your trust in that which you cannot see, and thus make your transition from those 2 chapters of Genesis where snakes appear to the creation where illumination shows no snake is possible. On the 7th day he rested because his creation was good. And good to God means something that no man has comprehended. To God, good means what man would say if he had invented the perfect infinite computer, something so flawless that it would be a total impossibility for error ever to occur. He would use great adjectives: fabulous, unbelievable, beyond all belief, incredible. And God simply says, good. And that good means eternal perfection. Not a single part missing. One welded whole. One complete image and likeness in the mind of God, comprising all that is and all of it being under the law of that God. So now you have the three principles of omnipresence which mean good. Good means I am omnipresent in my creation. There is no part of the spiritual creation that is not God. And my power is omnipresent in my creation. There is no part of the spiritual creation in which the power of God is not fulfilling the law of love. Love invisibly is fulfilling the law everywhere. It isn't that love is the fulfilling of the law. Love is fulfilling it now. Throughout the creation of the Father, love is fulfilling that creation. And there's nothing on earth or in heaven that can stop it. This is a perpetual, eternal dispensation. No power can stop love from fulfilling itself as the law of the creation. And the all-knowing mind, which embraces its own creation, knows everything happening in its creation, and so you have a perpetual law of perfection. And now this creation is finished, and God is in the seventh day, and so are you. This is the seventh day. We stand in a seventh day that will never be anything but the seventh day. So the seventh day is eternity. The creation finished. Your reality stands in eternity in the seventh day, surrounded by the goodness which is invisibly manifest in the creation, and this goodness is the omnipresence of God, the omnipower of God, and the omnimind of God. And in it, there is no possibility of error. There is no possibility of evil. Now that is the only creation there is, and that is the only creation you can ever live in. You can assume a creation. You can imagine a creation. You can suppose a creation. But there is no power on earth that can create another creation. And therefore, the creation is omnipresent. The perfection is omnipresent. The life is omnipresent. And where you stand at this moment is the little child, awake in you, awake and knowing it is in the perfect creation. And only that little child awake in you now knows of the creation in which it stands. And that which appears as the external you, unaware of this invisible child within you, it alone walks in a supposed and imagined and uncreated creation called this world. Now, while you're walking in this world, the little child within you is walking in the kingdom. And there's no point in trying to fix up this world, because it isn't here to fix up. There's no point in trying to remove the snakes from that holly tree behind you, because there's no snake in it. And as long as you're trying to fix up your human life, your world, you're trying to fix up a world that has no existence. You're going to continue finding the impossibility of it until you are removed from the scene. Because there is no provision for the eternal era of human life. The goodness inherent in the 6 days of manifestation are the invisible will of God. There is no power to stand up to that will and say you can't come any further. The will of God is expressing, and it is the Father's will that you be perfect, as the creation is perfect. And therefore, any attempt on your part to perpetuate a material existence in any way is a disobedience of the divine will. Any attempt to perpetuate a happier life, a good life, a better human life, is a complete disavowal of the injunction to be perfect, because there is no such thing as a perfect human being. And that's proven when the breath is taken out and the limbs are still. There goes that so-called perfection. Now, perfection is spiritual perfection, for there is no other. And to be perfect as your Father which is in heaven involves a complete realization that I am living in a world which does not exist, and that the human existence and every aspect of it is a falsification of the divine idea. My function isn't to improve that which is inherently false. My function is to awaken to the little child within me, who alone has the single eye of the Father. My function is to find the holy mountain which is carved within me, which is a holy silence of my human being, which is really non-being. And in finding this child within, this holy silence, this Christ, before me is lifted the veil of matter. Before me is lifted the mountain of human thought. Before me is lifted all that is called the mist, which makes possible the false appearance of uncreation, non-creation, in which I have lived these many human uncreated lives seeking that which is creation. Now, there is a complete mental universe on this side of the mist, totally. And in that mental universe appears that which is called our human life. Its resemblance to the spiritual creation is like a grain of sand to an infinite beach. It is a little dot of thought parading as a world, and in it all that exists is the fabric of a non-created mind. All the thought in that world is the fabric of a mind not created, not existent. And that non-created mind is the expression of the firmament which separated the waters in the second day. That firmament, that expansion, that vault, separating the waters of truth from those of untruth, the high from the low, the light from the dark, finally show forth as that which we on earth cannot relate. We cannot find that point where creation stopped being creation and the human scene began. And that's because of the expanse between the waters above and below. The child lives in the waters above and below. Man lives below, but the true inner man lives above and below. And only the child knows the way. The birth of the babe is very important because it is that child come into the human consciousness which knows the way from the lower waters to the higher and takes you out of that separation which the firmament in the second day appears to be in the outer external world. That separation manifest in the physical is the mystery. And you can trace it first to your human mind and then to the mist of world belief, of world thought. And that world thought is the gap between the two waters. That is a non-existent gap, completely imagined. There is no gap. There is no firmament between the two waters. Everything you see in the 6 days of creation are connected, one to the other. They are simply different levels of spiritual creation, each evolving from the next. There is no separation from any part of God to another part of God. And now, as you find the child within yourself, this will be your fourth dimensional consciousness, taking you out of all of the questions and all of the gaps and all of the doubts and all of the incomprehension. For no three-dimensional mind can comprehend the invisible Spirit of the Father. And I can answer your questions and you may be satisfied. But they still are not the child within you. And that child within you is the gap that fills what you call the gap. Only when you find that child do you find the oneness with the creation which establishes you in your identity. Now, as long as you're looking out of this human mind, you're going to be in the wrong universe. You'll never be in the right universe looking out of the wrong mind. Now, you must lay down your concepts, because the spiritual creation is not attainable through your concepts. You look out of certain window panes and what you see is this world. But when you look out of the eyes of that child within you, you will see this creation in which the child lives. And then that child will grow. Then it will mature. Then it will show you you are not confined to a physical form. Then it will show you how to walk in the spiritual universe and how to take dominion. How all of you encompasses all of the 6 days of creation. You're not confined to any one day or any one province. This is your creation, and the little child in you shall lead you. That little child, then, is the spark of divinity that you ignite by putting your trust in the God which is the substance of the total creation. And when you find the little child within you, you have found yourself, because you are that child, which is the child of God. Now, there's no sense looking out with your eyes anymore and trying to fight the snakes on the tree or the epidemics and earthquakes and disasters of this world and all the lacks and limitations of it. That's the activity of a hypnotized mind. And as long as you're going to fight these things, the cosmic hypnosis that maintains you in a level which is not creation can never be broken, and you are perpetuating a world of appearances that has no reality. Now, when you come to me and tell me there are snakes in the tree, my job is to see that I awaken you from your hypnosis, not that I go out there on that tree and start sawing the limbs off to remove the snakes. And so your consciousness must come to the point where, in order to find the child, you first rise to a level that can accept the truth that you can never remove an evil from this world. You can never remove an evil from this world. If you can be convinced of that, you will reach another consciousness which says there's no evil to remove, there's no snake on the tree. This is the only creation. And if I were to try to remove an evil, I would be saying that God is not omnipotent. God is not present. God is unknowing. Because God would have to be impotent, not knowing, and not present for an evil to exist in the creation of God. Where is the evil? If it cannot exist in the creation of God, where is it? It must be in the hypnotized mind. And so there's no sense going out there to get rid of the evil. Get rid of the hypnotized mind. Now that's your first step then. If you're willing to try to get rid of the hypnotized mind and not of the evil, you are a million leagues ahead of this world, which is still trying to get rid of the evils and to sew them up. You are realizing the hypnotized mind is the separation between that which I experience in this world and the perfect creation. Now to remove that hypnotized mind is to reveal to me the sixth-day creation, where I can walk and live and have my being. And so the first step is to refuse, to reject, to totally refuse to have anything to do with the evils of this world, not to improve them or to remove them. Don't get out on the limb and start sawing the snakes away. They cannot exist, and the evils cannot exist, and that must be a level of consciousness attained before you can find that child within you. You must live at that level which does not deny the omnipresence of God's perfect creation. You are honoring God supremely in all thy ways. And so you're at the level now where you refuse to honor this world. First the evils and then the good. Because the good of this world is transient. It is not the creation of the Father. It is alive and then it is dead. It is well and then it is sick. Now you're looking at the opposites and seeing that neither pair of the opposites exist, neither the positive or the negative, the good or the bad. You're looking at the material world and you're rising above it. You're rising first to the consciousness which does not grapple with your adversary and turns the other cheek. And now you're rising above the material world. It is but the appearance seen through a hypnotized mind. Now what in you is beginning to see this? That in you which begins to see this is the birth of the child. As you can live at that level that rejects the good and the bad, first the evil and then the good, and finally all material creation as not of your Father, you are rejecting the imitation, the mental, the recreation. And you live in this consciousness until the babe is born, the child leads you, you are illuminated from this new mind, this Christ mind, this Christ consciousness, and there stands your creation. And all of it is you. I and the Father are one creation, one substance, one being. God becomes the only inhabitant of God's creation, and this is your consciousness. All is good. Who are we to stand here and say there's evil? Who are we to accuse the Father of lying? Why are we such fools as to accept the possibility that God could create that which is imperfect, when now we know we can stand still in the face of it and say God is the only creator, the only creation, and therefore this must be an outpicturing of a hypnotized mind. That's laying down your life. Once you accept the hypnotized mind as the false tempter to make us see a false creation, when you can lay down this false mind and rest in the total trust that the mind of God is your habitation, and that you stand now revealed as the living creation of God, then you have walked out of the Adam and Eve creation, and you are reborn of the Spirit, and you are walking now in a world of God's creation where any appearance of a snake is impossible. That should be your present attitude. Any appearance of an evil is impossible, and therefore I shall not grapple with the impossible. I shall not resist the impossible. It has no relation to me because I am and it is not. Now this consciousness ultimately is the freedom which makes the creation of God your living world. Now, is not God present at this moment? And therefore, if God is present and there is something wrong in your life, can that wrong be true? Could there be a wrong in the presence of Him whom to know aright is life eternal? Is not the wrong your statement that God is not present? Isn't the wrong a statement that the absence of God, the lack of God's power, and the lack of God's intelligence has made this possible? Every wrong in your life is such a statement. Every wrong in your life is a statement that you are not in the creation of God, that you are not under the power of God, or the intelligence of God, or the law of God. And so you perpetuate an untruth, and you perpetuate the appearance of that untruth. The final realization of omnipresence must fully free you from every false appearance. And the false appearance, most of all, that it must free you from is your own mind, which is the beast which walks hand in glove with the father of lies. We must be freed from the mind that looks out, because that mind looking out will always give us a false picture of creation. Forget the creation out there. Work on this mind and release yourself from it 24 hours a day. Stand back of it. Pause. Speak to the divine mind and ask it to come forth and interpret the scene to you. Rest. This is the seventh day. Live in it. Live consciously that you are in the seventh day, and it will manifest as the mind of the Christ. And you will look out through window panes that see creation and not miscreation. Now, a man said to me the other day, I work in a place where it's almost impossible to do that. And by the end of the day, well, at about the first or second hour, I'm holding up one brick, and then another brick, and then another on it, and another. He says, by the end of the day, he says, I've really held up all the bricks of that building. I've held them up. He says, but I'm awfully tired. He says, what can I do about it? You've got to realize there are no bricks there. You've got to realize that you're in the perfect creation, and what has happened really is this. You have let others who are hypnotized make you believe that you must do something about their hypnosis. Whereas you don't have to do something about their hypnosis. You're merely letting the man come up to you and say there's a snake in the tree, and you're saying, by gosh, there is, and you're running with him to do something about it. Now, when he comes up to you hypnotized, that doesn't mean you must be. And so that is where it must stop. When the world comes to you with its hypnosis, you don't say yes. You must stop that hypnosis. It must hit a consciousness of the little child, which knows no evil. You must be that consciousness, and you'll find you don't have to go through a day from one problem to the next, from one crisis to the next. These are hypnotized crises by a hypnotized individual who has accepted a hypnotized material life, who has heard enough by now about the truth of being and who stubbornly clings to a mind which is incapable of presenting the true creation. Now then, suppose you just made a very simple test. Suppose when this hypnosis of evil or pressure or the world is heavy upon you, makes its entrance into your mind, suppose you do something about it. Suppose you just stand there with a pause which is saying, Father, here comes that pressure, help me. I'm suspending the operation of this surface mind, and I'm waiting for that infinite mind to take over. Just pause that minute and see if it doesn't. When someone yells, here's a snake, you pause and see if that mind within and without doesn't say, as you pause, there's no snake there. This fellow is hypnotized. He thinks he's got a deadline. He thinks he's under pressure. He thinks this must be done this minute. He thinks this is due, that's overdue. Pause. This is my universe. He isn't God, I am. Pause. Let me reset the patterns for you. Pause. Don't rush. Pause. It's the seventh day. Rest. And watch me put every little brick for you in its proper place. Watch the divine mind come to you the moment you acknowledge its presence. Instead of rushing pell-mell in response to every pressure and resisting every evil and grappling with every adversary and even trying to do good where the Father within has already done good, and you are simply not seeing it because you're rushing through a human mind's activity. Now this pause can be the greatest pause of a person's life. In the pause, you are standing in front of this world and saying, stop. You're not fooling me. You sent a little representative here who's all hypnotized, but not me. Stop. I'm waiting for the Father to readjust this scene. That divine mind will come and do it. Something in you is born, and each little birth becomes a very kicking, alive life within, until there's a consciousness there which is no longer fooled. The world doesn't enter that consciousness. You don't look out through the window panes of a mortal mind, and you don't see the evils. They don't come nigh thy dwelling because you're in a new dwelling. You're dwelling in a touch of the Christ. Now this complete 6-day creation, all of it, is only visible through the eyes of the Christ. And that is the veil that has kept it from mortality. The complete, total, absolute, infinite creation of the Father is only visible through the eyes of the Christ. There is no other way. And so you must find the eyes of the Christ which are within you. Any other attempt to climb into heaven is just a Tower of Babel. It will falter, it will totter. You can never climb into heaven through any human means. This complete creation, absolute, is your entranceway through the Christ alone. I, the Christ, am the way to the 6-day creation of your Father. And it doesn't matter how many religions are born on this earth from now till doomsday, or what is taught, that simple truth can never be violated. And once you face it, only the Christ consciousness will do for you. There is no other in order to experience reality. Now this six-day creation here, I have only glossed over. Somewhat of a surface analysis. But if you will accept that this that you are hearing about is really, in point of time, your future. In point of reality, it is your present. In point of your understanding, it's your future. This six-day creation is alive and bristling now. In it lives those who have passed out of mortal mind through into this Christ realization, and lo and behold, they walk invisibly in the Spirit in the six-day creation of Genesis. And it is they, living in various parts of infinity, who are ever reaching toward us as life to lift us out of the shell of ignorance. Don't be afraid of those impulses within. You don't know where they're coming from or what's behind them. But if they come to you, welcome them. Each little impulse is a significant invitation to you to yield, to become meek, to remember that when the truth of you was created in the divine image and likeness, male and female, you were blessed. You were Christed. And that blessing is infinite and eternal, can never change. The blessing of the Father upon your identity can never be diminished or altered or removed. For I am with thee always. And that blessing, you see, is your guarantee of who you are and who you can never change from. So instead of coming out from under that and living in a false life, accept the blessing. Accept the identity and relax in the omnipresent love and watch the divine mind whisper its eternal message of your identity. Your preparation, your purification is the rejection of the concept of evil, of matter, of human life, of all belief in that which is unlike God itself. And as you stand in that awareness, that unbelief of that which is unlike God, you are accepting the blessing which was given in the first chapter of Genesis. And slowly that blessing will manifest as the Christ consciousness of your being. You have a job. And your job is to bear witness to the truth, which means to reject that which is not the truth. Matter is not the truth. Humanhood is not the truth. Evil is not the truth. Human good is not the truth. Reset the dials of your mind by accepting no human mind as your own. Then you will discover this human mind is the perfect channel for the divine, and they are welded into one, and heaven and earth are one. That which ever was and ever will be becomes your realization. Oh, I wish we could go deeper and longer, but there is a place in this where unless we're prepared to go together, we are actually walking in that which is the truth. And to walk in the truth, you cannot enter in a gross human body. Before the 6 days of creation was set down by Moses, and before there was 6 days of creation, even known to man of earth to set them down, there was a perfect creation, and it has never changed. And the world that later appeared as a hypnotized appearance in the mind of man has never really been here. The glory that we each share in the Father before the world was is the truth of our self in creation. And that truth is ever present, ever coming to you as an impulse, ever ruling from the invisible into the visible. Let us now become more conscious of these invisible impulses, for they are the hands of the Father reaching toward you through his angels. And as these realities grow on you, you will find that there is a beautiful and brave world beyond our world. Now that ought to do for the moment, but we have another date, another time. Now I'm not sure we'll go further with this at the moment or not, but I can assure you that we will have another stimulating and I hope challenging discussion about some aspect of reality as revealed in the hidden scriptures of the world.